is next up we have our own charges again. Ireland playing host to the USA in the Aviva Stadium. That's going to be Saturday as well, July 10th. Kickoff 7:15, so an evening kickoff for this one. It's going to be refed by Mathieu Renal from France, obviously, with Adam Jones and Craig Evans of Wales on the touchline, and Eric Gauzin, another Frenchman in the TMO. So 2 French, 2 Welsh in the refereeing team for this one. It's another interesting game. Ireland will be definitely looking to get a few kind of fringe players into some test jerseys, get some new caps in there, which Farrell has been talking up.
Yeah, a bit like England, just trying to stretch.
Similar. Yeah, it's that kind of tour for them, Lions tour going on. That is kind of the equation for a lot of these teams in the wake of their Lions being away. It'd be nice to see them kind of gel and be cohesive, marry that power game that they're comfortable with some speed, some intellect. You'd like to see them be the cleverer team than the US, and certainly the more experienced team than the US.
I think Ireland will be excited to take a look at some of their young men, but very keen to get a comfortable win here against the USA. It's another tier 1 v tier 2, and a loss at home is unacceptable and not something that they should be hoping to entertain at any point during the 80 minutes. However, the US, the Eagles, they will take major encouragement from their showing in Twickenham. Outside of a rust-filled first half, they actually won the game. They were 26-3 down at the second half. Ended up only losing the game by 14, a 26-17 win in the second half.
You never see the like of it from a tier 2 side in Twickenham away from home.
Winning the second half,
absolutely fantastic.
By 9 points,
and they have some confidence here. The last time they were here,
they got some tries. Taufete'e
got a double when he was in Dublin last, so he'll have positive memories as well.
Although he did end up taking a 6-month injury towards the end of that game, if you recall.
So
he
some
went off.
negative memories as well.
So
maybe
it was an eventful time in Dublin.
PTSD or just fun memories. I don't know. But it's definitely a good challenge for both.
They'll be looking to make a game of this, the US. After last week, fancying it against England, Ireland don't have the same depth as England, so an Ireland B team is more vulnerable naturally than an England B team would be, and they're gonna go for this. I'd say they'll be keen to make a game of it for sure. As far as the squads are concerned, Ireland have named their team. They've gone for 8 uncapped players in the 23. They got Kilcoyne, Kelleher and Tom O'Toole, who's a debutant in a tight head. They got Baird and Ryan in the locks, that's very fine.
Awesome.
They got Doris at 6, Coombs at 8, and Nick Timoney comes in for a first cap in the 7 shirt, which is a little out of position for him. It's really 3 number 8s in the back row, but very explosive carrying nonetheless, and that's what they were best at last week. It is what they're best at, and I don't mind them leaning into it. If those 3 can link off each other and generate some explosive carries,
it'll some of those centres as well and just get a little wider. It can cause some problems in the tram lines. That'd be nice to see.
100%. As far as the back line is concerned, I mean, Craig Casey and Joey Carberry is the partnership we all want to see work at 9 and 10.
Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
In theory, it's the Munster pairing, but sure, Conor Murray and Carberry start, and then Carberry doesn't touch the ball for 60 minutes and gets hauled off, and then Casey only comes on at 77 minutes.
That is his traditional. The man has more 3-minute showings than anyone before. Like, for a guy with such hype around him, the coaches don't trust him off the bench, Craig Casey, which is curious. So I'm delighted for him to get a start, because he does have bundles of potential and potentially could be a really good option for this Irish team. It's an all Ulster centre partnership outside them. James Hume comes in for a first cap to partner Stuart McCluskey in the centre, which is exciting. And then in the outside backs, we have another debutant in Balakoon on the right wing.
He has been awesome all season. It's good to see him finally get a look in at
It is, and a great opportunity for him as well, because his 2 partners in the back 3 are full of experience. Hugo Keenan, I know he's a young man, but very experienced and solid at this level, and Conway on the other side. I mean, between the 2 of them, they'll cover the backfield no problem.
That's
so Balakoon's like the pressure,
and Carberry will probably be dropping back there on D as well. So
the pressures of the right wing position won't be on him on debut. I think it'll be more about just go out and express yourself, find some tries. You've got some good solid heads around you. So
typically when it goes well against these tier 2 sides, then your winger on debut should be scoring.
Yes.
That should be a good little work on for Ireland. If they can get Balakoon on the board, then it'll probably have been a good day for all involved.
Indeed.
It's normally a good little litmus test. Are both wingers on the board against this team that you should be beating?
Yeah, absolutely. And the US have gone for a few changes from their team. It's not bad. Like it really isn't. David Ainuu from Toulouse is in at loosehead. Joe Taufete'e comes in at hooker, having come off the bench against England. He's class. Paul Mullen retains his jersey in the tight head. Peterson and Savetta in the locks. Then they've got Germishois and Hatting and Cam Dolan in the back row. Cam Dolan in particular. Germish is a fine player as well. He's coming into the squad. as flanker.
Dolan has been Captain America really for them, hasn't he? He's
awesome player, and he will be the Captain of America if he's de facto captain at the moment. I know Bryce Campbell has the armband, as it were, but I definitely think Dolan is a future captain. He's got a written all over
leader. He jumps in the lineouts, he steals lineouts.
His carry game, his offload game, his tackling game. He's just one of those back row playmakers, of whom there are many, and he's rangy in class and found a try at the weekend, and he will be vital to their chances this week. They've stuck with Ruben De Haas against my advice at 9, but he's there and hopefully he has a good show of it. Luke Carty gets to line up against his home country.
That's a funny one.
At 10, yeah.
You have Mullen and Carty going up against the Irish. What's going on?
Yeah, and Adge McGinty's injured. That's the only reason we're not seeing him as well. They've got Campbell and Whiting in the centres. Whiting, I don't think, was in the squad last week, but he's in this week. Mm-hmm. And then they've got Christian Dyer coming back in on the wing with Cruz on the other wing. Cruz obviously was very nice last week, and Mikey Teo, as he did during the match last week, shifting into fullback to link up with Cruz, his Utah friend.
Yeah, well, sure. Cruz scored a try off the bench on debut last week.
That was Dyer.
Dyer, even. Sorry, So fair play to him, and getting the start based on that. And it's another 6-2 split. I notice on the bench for them. They are physical. We know that the US like to be strong, but sometimes you can rue that if a back goes down.
They've got just Baska at covering scrum half and McGee. But the thing about both of those men is that they're both kind of utility backs.
Baska's quite a rangy guy. He's quite big.
He could slot in the back line, and so could McGee. McGee can play anywhere, so there is that element to it where they have taken down the risk somewhat.
Sure.
But there are a couple of interesting squads. Obviously, starting just with Ireland in terms of how we want to look at this game. For me, like what I'm going to be looking at, obviously I don't take the US for granted, and this is a sloppy team, so first and foremost you want to win. But beyond that, I am looking to see how they play. Can they stretch the field? Can the 10 be a little more involved? Can Craig Casey as a young line replicate that kind of passing that Gibson Park had? And just generally, are they going to have decent quality passing, and then to marry that with the good running and supporting game and the good little link plays from the back row forwards? Like, can the passing be as sharp as we need it to be if we're going to evolve? I mean, we have good little plays, good link plays. It was nice to see us work that screen in with Keenan. We're getting to the extremities. I love our back rows. I think the loose forwards in general, like I would count Kelleher sometimes as a loose forward,
even though he's
Ryan Baird, like the loose forward carryings is a great strength of ours, but I would just love to see us marry the killer pass with that. It's something Sexton has that none of our other 10s have, and really I'm looking at Joey Carberry and saying, can you deliver on that sort of quality passing to open up the defence?
Because he didn't last week. He had the opportunity to throw a couple of potential try assists and just didn't throw them. Didn't even throw them. And the one time he did throw one, he got picked. So it's like, that's the concern. That's the concern, is just the quality of passing of Ireland for the last decade really has not been anything to write home
kind
about.
Of gone.
It's gone down.
It was like slowly going down, and then O'Driscoll retired and went. And listen,
much.
We won games without it, but we kind of were found out then, and we do need now to expand.
There's no world in which you get past a World Cup quarterfinal, which is ultimately what it's all about for Ireland.
It's all about.
There's no way you can do that by being clunky and not able to pass. Like you have to be able to.
I actually think as well, and I've made this point before on the podcast, but it's always in the back of my head about Ireland, is that our time scale is slightly different from other teams, because we are still an emotionally brittle side at the best of times somewhat, and we have a summer tour this time next year in New Zealand, 3 tests in New Zealand, which I don't think COVID will save us from. And if they go into that series a year out from the World Cup and are clunky and are found out and lose badly, it's not the same as losing all 3 tests necessarily. You can lose all 3 tests and have lots to take from it, but if they get outclassed and blown away and are left rudderless and trying to find themselves and pick up the pieces a year out from the World Cup, I think that's a very, very bad place for us to be in. And so in the back of my mind, I feel like that is a huge seminal tour for this group that will ultimately go to the World Cup in 2023, and hence things need to be got right in advance of that.
Yeah, indeed, and this is a perfect little kind of test for that. It's obviously no kind of challenge like a 3-test tour of the All Blacks, but it is hosting a team on the up after a good showing last year or last week even, a physical side who can cause us problems because they're more than comfortable in a slow bludgeoning game. And if Ireland are a bit complacent in doing that, because going to type is us going up the jumper and kind of hitting them hard. And guys like Cam Dolan will chop them all day long.
The US will be physical, and if Ireland can get repelled, like what their answer to that is, if that's just a kick into the air, they could find themselves in a frustrating game. That said, I think what they want to do is maybe isolate the likes of Teo, who's a phenomenal player going forward but isn't that great in the air
on the turn.
I think they will try and kick the ball from midfield and put pressure on these guys, get Keenan chasing after the ball, get McCluskey chasing after the ball, get Conway chasing after the ball, and put hits in and disrupt them, and then win attacking opportunities in the red zone and turn them into tries. And to be fair, last week they were great at turning red zone opportunities into tries, and that's what won them the game.
That is true. Yeah, no, their line out set piece launch play has improved no end under Paul O'Connell this year, which we were talking about all during the Six Nations. It's always a fulcrum for any good Irish team, even that O'Driscoll team. Like that line out was what they launched from more often than not. That's like it's a pivotal part of Irish rugby, and it needs to go well. But I still am going to cite I hate kicking off first phase off a strike play, be it off line out. I think in the middle third especially, I would love to see us with a bit more ambition. We're against a tier 2 side here. Put the ball through the hands, for God's sake. It's easier to there's more space to attack when you're in the middle of the field than there is in the 22. Like, if you want to try and work on your passing game, if you want to try and reach the extremities, which we do, if you want to try and work in kick return transition play, which we do, if we vitally need to do that, these are the kinds of games where you can afford to do that a bit more. I would just I
expect to see them try it for a phase, especially off transition. If they turn the ball over, if they win a box kick, I expect them to flash the ball to the other side to try and get to those open areas and find scores. I do. They did it last week. That's how they got McCluskey's try.
That's true.
And they have those back rowers on the wings. I expect to see Daragh a little wider with Coombs in tighter this week. I expect that to be an adjustment, and we'll see Darragh's hands come into full flow in those wide channels. That's going to be exciting to see, but I do expect them to probe and try it. But yes, if it stalls after a phase and they're in the middle of the field, they'll go to the kick, and they will. That's what they do.
Yeah, I know. I know. No, it's not quite the same as kicking off first phase. Like, if it stalls, you do kick it. I understand that. I do resent the fact that we kick as much ball as we do. I think we kick away perfectly good ball far too often, and I really, really, really don't want to see us get a turnover and immediately drop it on the toe, which we do often.
Yeah, it's true.
I would much rather see us throw a speculative 40-yard ropey pass. I think that's a better instinct than to drop it on the toe, honestly.
No, I agree. I think it's also a killer when we break the line sometimes. It's the Stockdale syndrome, because Stockdale has used it to such great effect. But now every time an Irishman makes a line break in the wide channels, they drop it on the toe. And if the defence reads it well, the chance is just gone. You'd sooner see them take it to the phases, keep the ball quick, go again. I do think that the forward battle is where Ireland might look to press home their advantage. And if
that was the case all through the Six Nations. It's where
they're super dynamic. I mean, Kelleher, Baird, James Ryan, Gavin Coombs coming into this team, immensely physical in the tight areas, and if they can just beat their opposite man, if they can get Cam Dolan going backwards, get on top of them, get them bruised, get them bloodied, that's where they're going to look to win the game,
which
really.
is
and
possible,
then on top of that you can get Carberry on the ball, but that's the winning of the game. They need to sit the likes of Taufete'e down. On defence, they need to get in their faces. James Ryan needs to be big. I think someone in that back row needs to step up and lead in the defensive line as well, because without Josh it's not quite the same balance.
It's not as dynamic. They're a bunch of number 8s really out there. So could it be Timoney on debut leading the defensive line? Could it be Coombs putting in physical? It could be any one of them. Could it be Doris as well? It'll need to be a combination of both. Personally, I quite like Baird leading the thing, because he has such pace. He's one who could mimic what Josh does.
He needs to work on his tackle technique.
He does.
That's Baird's problem, is he'll shoot out of line, but he tackles with his arms. At the moment, he's still young.
Doesn't put the shot in.
Yeah, and for a man with such broad shoulders, he needs to be putting the shoulder in, bending his back. But no question about his speed, shutting things down, and they will use him to cut down the outside.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And that'll be vital. Just winning the forward battle, if they can do that against this US
give
team.
No platform to young Carty and get no ball to Teo and the like out wide, and just suffocate them, and then by the end have a beleaguered and bloodied Cam Dolan. That's the look for Ireland. An Ireland team that have dominated them will have all of those telltale
signs. But they need not to get dragged in the muck, and you're right to point out that the offense has to be a point of emphasis, because as we know well with Ireland, there's a scenario where they dominate and get on top of the team up front and just don't make it count on the scoreboard, and it's a dogged game. They need not to have that happen. They can't get dragged down into the muck. because then it'll just be negative vibes. And,
well, even if regardless of results, it'll be negative vibes because people will be frustrated watching them if they're struggling to stick passes.
The US are one of those terrible kind of teams at the moment as well, where people who are in the weeds know that this is a coming force, but from the outside looking in, this is a tier 2 team to be beaten. This isn't even a team with hype around them like Georgia or the like. This is a team who there's no excuse to not be comfortable.
If anything, they were disappointing at the last World Cup, which was the last time anyone who's casual was watching them. Exactly. So it's like there's no excuse for losing it.
And they are dangerous, and that is a factor. And I think from their perspective, they'll take encouragement from last week. The scoreline did flatter them. I definitely think that's true. But I love their ruthlessness. I want to see them front up physically as they're prone to doing and stop the Irish at source to make it difficult for Ireland, not to allow the likes of James Ryan just to get easy platform to maybe attack the pill in contact, because Ireland can be a little loose in that area. That's true. I'd love to see them match us up there and make a real game of it.
Yeah.
And then kick from midfield. Look to target the young Balakoon if you can find him in the backfield. Get Luke Carty confident putting the ball into the right spaces. I don't see them becoming razzle-dazzle from midfield, especially with De Haas on the pitch. I think they need a bit more in terms of their offense.
Well, they certainly need him to be quicker.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's probably going to be scruffy ball, because Ireland do make messes of breakdowns, even with all number 8s on the pitch, it'll be a scrap at the breakdown, but it's on him to clear the ruck for them, and he was slow at that in the first half, especially in Twickenham. He was just too slow.
Yeah, and they do need to be quicker, because there's potential now. As good as Baraki was last week from 15, and you're right to cite him, he was very good.
He was. It was a shame he had to go off, but then Teo
with Teo coming in at 15, there's actually a change of systems there where you have really a 2 distributor system, because Mikey Teo can throw skip passes off the right and the left, and he can throw those little jinks. He can suck in a couple of players and get a pass away. So they really do have 2 distributors
now to link up with as well. Guys out wide who have wheels. It's not like the team that went to the World Cup just had no wheels out there. They do have a bit more wheels out there, a bit more pace, and even in the centres as well, they have a little bit more speed than they brought to the World Cup. So they'll be looking to try and match Ireland up front. They'll certainly be taking the game to them. They don't mind being in the trenches. That's kind of where they're most at home. But if it breaks to them, if they loose kicks, which they might be expecting, because Ireland do the big book of loose Irish kicks is one that is a very thick volume, and so if they can get their hands on a ball and kind of punish Ireland with a swift counter-attacking move, then they'll put the cat amongst the pigeons. But it's like the same equation as it often is for tier 2 sides. They need to be the more disciplined side, which means responding to the Irish pressure game, which will come their way with discipline and calm, as opposed to reckless abandon.
Effective clean tackling, and it is on Dolan and Taufete'e, I think, as their senior forwards, to try and step up to what is a barrage of dynamic Irish carriers. Like Coombs he's such a potential barnstormer. Ryan Baird likewise, and then you have the sort of Ronan Kelleher's and James Ryan's who are bedded in class players. It's a monumental task, but Ireland are quite slow and they're quite telegraphed. And if they can just get themselves into alignment, get low, wrap their arms, and just they might get on top of them briefly, Ireland, but they're not the best team for pressing home their advantage unless you give them the ins. So they need to just soak up the pressure when they can, maybe attack the pill on 1 or 2 occasions and generate that one big steal, which can be massive. It can be a real game changer, and they're going to need a few of them in this game.
They definitely will need a few, because Ireland will keep coming, and they'll go through phase after phase, and they'll send runner after runner, and it will be a wearying task, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that some of those guys, those big leaders in the pack, looking a bit bloodied and bruised by the end, because Ireland are that bludgeoned and that narrow that it's like, it's coming, but it is still a monstrous task. Like, James Ryan's going to hit that short line maybe 20 times in the match, and you're going to have to tackle him every time, and then any time you tackle him, the next guy's Coombs, and it's like, that is a lot. And you see with guys like the Italian lads, in the back row, Negri and Bramstein, Pelledri. You've seen them show their showings against Ireland, where they're good in the first half and game, and then by the end they are falling off tackles, because it's just repeated blunt force, and it wears on them, because these are talismen and they can't be subbed off. And guys like Dolan, it'll be a different time. Like, England were trying to move the pill. They had Marcus Smith at 10, they had Slade. They were moving them about a bit more, and then they got a little rudderless because they had a 6-2 split that got thing. With Ireland, it'll be a slightly different approach. You're sure it'll be a bit more narrow. They will probably have to make more tackles,
unless Ireland are trying to expand their game, at which point they can catch them. Like, I certainly think Carberry, like, if I don't want to see it from an Ireland point of view, I want to see Carberry go well, But if I was an opposition coach, I'd be going, attack this guy, he throws picks.
Yeah.
Certainly
get that pressure. 13, isn't it? Campbell at 13.
Yeah.
I'd certainly be I've done it a few times on the pitch as well. When you get the guys telegraphing an old skip pass, you can just line up two things outside and give me that. You saw Finn Russell do it to Joey Carberry. You saw many people.
He does telegraph them, and if he's under instruction to throw them and he's not that confident, I would look to get that pressure D on from the midfield for sure. But it all stems from being able to physically match them. None of it's possible if they're being bulldozed.
If they're falling off, you'll know within a couple of minutes.
But they tend not to be. In the first half, they tend not to be. And then if they can marry the gumption that they usually show up front in the tackle areas and the physicality that they can show with that wide play that the MLR has developed, then maybe they could make a game of it. I mean, they were bloody brilliant against England, and that's no mean feat.
Yeah, no, I give them far much more of a shake than I do, say, Canada in Twickenham. This thing, I think they absolutely have the tools to put it up to Ireland. I suspect they will probably struggle. I think I do expect a try from them, but I think they will probably be wearied by not just this game, the emotional weight of last week as much as anything else. Yeah. Plus Hooley, I think one of their guys in camp, a former captain of them, he was citing that it was actually effectively a 3-day prep because of quarantines and all of this stuff for that thing. So it was so impressive that the guys did it and rallied together, big emotional charge in that second half. It's tough to replicate that, especially as a tier 2 side, and I do expect Ireland will be kind of steaming a little bit from that Japan game. It didn't as pretty as it was for the neutral. I know from Ireland's point of view, having watched it as an Ireland fan, huge frustration. The first half was error-strewn. We let them in. They were playing the razzle-dazzle rugby. It became a Japan game instead of an Ireland game for a time, and that's annoying. And there'll be a little bit of that grit in the chat this week, and they'll be hoping to hit the ground running and kind of run through this USA team to get themselves feeling good about themselves. That's definitely the Irish plan.
Yeah, I'd certainly take it. That if you. I don't know. I think. It's one of these things with the US. They are coming, but I don't know when. Maybe you're right, and this won't be too much for them. I think I saw enough last week where I say they'll probably have 2 tries at least in them, because their efficiency from 5 out is great.
That's true.
And Ireland's defence is pretty shoddy.
That's true.
And as good as these boys will be in the carry, they don't even have a 7 on the pitch, and then their 7 is their defensive leader as well. Yeah. So I think there's tries out there for the US, but I do think that the physicality of the Irish boys will get them over the line. But I could see another high scoring game. I could see this being, another kind of loose Summertorian 40-20 kind of game.
Potentially, yeah. I'd take that. I think
could even be 30-20.
I'm going to say it's going to be 33-10.
I don't think I definitely think the US will score more than 10 against our defense. Definitely.
Okay, I'll take that.
They'll have a maul try and they'll have another try of some kind. Yeah.
Fair enough. Let's see what happens. I do expect Ireland to get the win here. And I'm not just saying that because nothing else is acceptable, because nothing else. But
I think so too. I think Ireland will win this one. This time I agree with you.
Yes. But with that, I suppose we will move on.
Thank you for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, please be sure to like and share with your friends. And if you'd like to hear more of what we have to say, please be sure to subscribe and click that bell so you get notified when we upload our videos. And please join the comment section as well. We like to get a fun conversation going here.